Back to another episode of Living Outside the QFAB. Paulie here, and today I'm going to talk to you about an interesting book that I've read about a year ago called Family Fortunes, written by Will and Bill Bonner. It's this book here. This is a very, very interesting book because it talks about wealth, and there's been lots of studies about wealth and money and whatnot, and many people have written about it, from Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, to Robert Kiyosaki's book Rich Dad Poor Dad, which I highly recommend those two. But this one here really comes in from a different angle. And what Bill Bonner does in the book, he talks about his research, and he went and he studied those wealthy families, but not so much the wealthy families, but the families that managed to maintain their wealth for generations. Because research actually proves that beyond generation 3, the wealth actually disappears. So the question is, why? So he asked this question, and he went in and did some research, and then he looked at those families that have actually managed to keep the wealth going beyond generation 3. And he looked and he saw the difference between the two. And these are some of the things that he discovered. I do encourage you to buy a copy of the book and study it, because as I've said in previous videos, this is my take on the book. This is what I personally got from it, but there may be other lessons in there specifically for your life. So one of the things Bill Bonner says in the book, he said, well, why is it then that some families manage to keep the wealth going beyond generation 3 and others don't? Now, mistake number 1, the company or the family makes money in a certain sector. They create a company, the company does really well, the father creates it, he does well, one of the sons takes over, he's not as good as the dad, he doesn't go through the same process the dad went to, where he started from scratch, came from nothing, etc., and he kind of struggles. But he doesn't do too bad, so the wealth doesn't completely go down to zero. It does go down a little bit, but he does believe that he had to take over the family business. He then has a son or some children. One of those children takes over the business from him. So now they're taking over from the grandfather that created the business. Now we're coming into generation 3. The passion's not there. The process, the third generation person has to go through. And very, very often, in about 75% of the cases, that's when the business fails. Now, the mistake lies in insisting on having a family member run the family business. So what Bill Bonner discovered, he said those families that managed to go beyond the third generation, what they did is they looked around and they soon figured out that maybe it's best for your children to follow their own passions. Maybe it's best for them to figure out their own talents and develop those. And if those talents and passions are nothing to do with your business, in order to preserve them, but you either sell the business, take the cash, and give it to your kids to invest in their own ventures. That's one way of doing it, and this is what some families have done. Or the other thing is, if you want to keep the business in the family, is all you do is you hire somebody from outside that's got the passion and the drive, maybe give them a little stake in the company and let them run the show. And so what you're doing effectively is you're not having a family member run the business, you're having the best person run that business. And that's where they've managed to multiply. And then the family members are now, they don't feel like they have to work in the family business. They're now free to go out there and follow their own passions and develop their own talents. But at the same time, they still have their shares in the family business, which is actually run by someone that knows what they're doing, has passion for what they're doing, and can actually grow and multiply that company. And so you're earning that passive income from that family business that your grandfather or your father your parents set up previously. So that's one thing. The other thing he talks about is helping your children to marry in the right way. I don't want to be racist about this or anything, but what Bill Bonner says, he says your children have to be very careful who they marry, in particular with this whole money thing, and be very, very careful on who your sons marry more than your daughters. Because what's going to happen is the sons are going to marry someone, and that woman is going to be spending more time with the kids than you are if you're a guy. So what happens? Because she's spending more time with the children than the father, she's going to have more influence. So when people are saying, oh, women are the weaker sex, blah, 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 that's a load of rubbish. Women actually have more influence on the future than men do. In particular, the women that spend time at home with their children and spending more time with them, because they can have a positive or negative effect upon these children. So if you are into money, I'm not saying that your children have to marry into a family that has money, but at least somebody that's got a certain type of mindset that gets it and that can then transmit and sort of hand over to the children the same type of thinking and philosophy. Because unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that have a bad view on money. They think money is bad, people with money are bad, etc., etc. But in reality, money can really make a difference in someone's life, a positive difference. It depends on how it's used. And so this is what Bill Bonner says. So he said, from a very young age, so make sure that your children mix with the right people, spend time with them, get to understand their talents, get to understand if they're going to be somebody that's going to develop the family business or not, and if they've got the passion and talent for that. And at the same time, help them to sort of figure out what to look for in a potential partner, husband, wife, whatever. And these are important factors for the future and being able to multiply this wealth. Because a lot of these families lost the wealth because they married the wrong person. And also, divorce obviously, slashes someone's fortune in half. So you want to try and avoid that. And selecting the right spouse is quite key. And then not only selecting the right spouse, is working on that relationship in a certain way in order to grow that relationship through time and make that relationship a strong relationship that lasts forever. And that's another important thing that he talks about in the book. So, teaching your kids certain values and principles from a young age to set them up for success in the future, also from a family standpoint as well as a wealth standpoint, because they both kind of connected together. So these are the two main things that I got from this book. So great read. I highly recommend this book, especially if you're in business. Family Fortunes by Bill Bonner. And that's all from Fab Paulie here on Living Outside the Cube. So please share this video, like it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so, and share this with your friends and family. And I'll see you on the next one. Thank you.